Prosecutors have released some interesting information regarding Paul Manafort and his actions as a foreign agent representing Russian interests in Ukraine. Now, part of what Manafort wanted to do was smear pro-Ukrainian politicians in Ukraine while simultaneously helping Russian-backed political interests in the country. So one way that he did that was to smear Ukrainian politicians as anti-Semitic and then get publications in the United States to write about it in order to get the Obama administration to no longer support those Ukrainian politicians. And the way he did it was so shady. So let me give you the details. Federal prosecutors allege in their charging documents that Manafort spoke with a senior Israeli official about ways to smear Ukrainian political Yulia Tymoshenko while building support for Viktor Yanukovych. That's the pro-Russian ex-president of Ukraine who Manafort used to work for. So working for him got him into a lot of trouble because remember, Manafort failed to register as a foreign agent here in the United States and was essentially getting paid by Russian interests, and the US government didn't know about it. Now, I'm going to read you the court filing so you can know the exact language that's being used in these filings. This is by prosecutors. Manafort orchestrated a scheme to have, as he wrote in a contemporaneous communication, Obama Jews put pressure on the administration to disavow Tymoshenko and support Yanukovych. Manafort sought to undermine United States support for Tymoshenko by spreading stories in the United States that a senior cabinet official who had been a prominent critic of Yanukovych's treatment of Tymoshenko was supporting anti-Semitism because the official supported Tymoshenko, who in turn had formed a political alliance with a Ukraine party that espoused anti-Semitic views. So just to give you a little bit more insight, what he wanted to do was basically get this Israeli official who's a hardliner in Israel, right? Very much in line with Benjamin Netanyahu, get him to release a statement about the so-called anti-Semitism coming from Yulia Tymoshenko. But Yulia Tymoshenko, there's no evidence whatsoever, as far as I know, that she's anti-Semitic or anything like that. It's just that pro-Russian interests wanted Yulia out and they wanted Viktor in. So Manafort got a senior Israeli government official to issue a written statement publicizing this story. That's a reference to a statement from then Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman, a hardliner who's now defense minister. And by the way, in the communications that Manafort was involved in, he said, I have someone pushing it on the New York Post, bada bing, bada boom.
So this story is really, really important because it is the Rosetta Stone of how you smear someone. Because now we have the inside documents and the playbook for how they do it. So at first, when I saw the headline about the Obama Jews, I was like, oh, here we go, another right-wing guy who's anti-Semitic and et cetera. But no, that's not what's happening here. So Manafort is not himself anti-Semitic. He's saying, let's reach out to the Jewish officials inside the Obama administration to do basically a false charge of anti-Semitism for our own political purposes and for his own financial purposes. So it's got everything in the playbook. Anti-Semitism through association. Was Tymoshenko anti-Semitic? No. They're like, but she was connected to someone else who might be anti-Semitic, so let's just smear her with it. Is it because we're actually concerned about the anti-Semitism? No, it's because we want her out because the Russians want her out. And we're getting paid by the pro-Russian forces in Ukraine to get her out. So let's just say anti-Semitism by osmosis. Now, second part of it is, we're gonna get an Israeli official to play along with us. Now, I don't want anybody putting it on every Israeli official. No, it's a right-wing Israeli official who says, what do you need? We need to work with the Russians and you need a favor and you need me to smear someone? Avigdor Lieberman's your guy, he'll step up to the plate for you, and he did. And he came out and he said, okay, yeah, anti-Semitic, I can't believe it. Okay, now again, none of this is, you could see it in the documents, is because they're actually worried about the anti-Semitism. What they're trying to do is do a hatchet job on a political opponent. Okay, now the other part of it that's interesting is, don't worry, we just plant it in the press. And they do. And who is their willing participant in that? Well, at the time, the article first appears at Breitbart. The author of the article is Ben Shapiro. Now, he worked at Breitbart back then, and he's the one who ran the article, and the article is filled with innuendo that is a classic smear job. He begins the article by saying Israel has expressed, quote unquote, deep concern. First of all, what do you mean Israel? Who in Israel has expressed deep concern, and why did they do that? And he paints her as a controversial opposition leader. No, you're the one who created the controversy in the first place. Now, did Shapiro get paid by these guys? I don't know. I hope that he didn't. I doubt. I don't know if I'm being naive here. I doubt that he did. He was just like, oh, we need to smear someone as anti-Semitic. What do you got for me? Okay, and so she claims that she has the tacit support of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for her anti-Semitism. What?
Yeah, I mean that was. That was a twist that he added to it. So Ben Shapiro goes out of his way to implicate Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton had apparently written some sort of op-ed in support of Yulia Tymoshenko, as opposed to Viktor Yanukovych, who again was being backed by the Russian government. And
it keeps on going. Here's another so-called anonymous source. Ironic as the Republicans now complain about anonymous sources. One prominent Jewish leader, he says, who asked to remain to be unnamed, then went on to say outrageous things, saying that the Ukrainian administration linked to Tymoshenko has, quote, created a neo-Nazi Frankenstein by issuing a de facto endorsement of Mrs. Tymoshenko and her choices. So that Hillary Clinton was involved in creating that neo-Nazi Frankenstein by supporting Tymoshenko, according to an unnamed Jewish leader. Okay, and so this is how they get a charge of anti-Semitism to stick on you. Somebody pays for it sometimes, and then they take it to a friendly source in the right-wing blogosphere or writer, etc. And then they say, well, an unnamed source. And they don't tell you that that unnamed source is getting paid to say that for a political purpose. Now, oftentimes this is done to attack people on the left. In this case, it's also done for attacking people on the left, but oftentimes it's on the issue of Israel. If you disagree with the right-wing government's position on Israel, unnamed Jewish leaders say that you're anti-Semitic, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, it's even worse, because on the issue of Israel, there are raw feelings and there are issues of identity, and people get carried away on both sides, et cetera, right? But on this has nothing to do with Israel. It has nothing to do with Jews. It has to do with, remember, Manafort got paid $60 million by the pro-Russian government of Ukraine. This is just about dollars and cents. I got paid, what do I need to do? I need to try to destroy people's careers by labeling them as anti-Semites. One, great, I'll do it, I don't care. Two, I'll get a lot of allies in the right wing, whether it's the Israeli right wing or the US right wing media, to help me destroy that person for a profit. So that's how that works. And I should note, this is really, really important. And we talked about this yesterday on a totally unrelated story when we didn't know this was coming out. Look, at a time when anti-Semitism has reemerged in a horrible, horrific way, when there are neo-Nazis marching in the streets of America, chanting the Jews will not replace us, to then cheapen that by using it for a political purpose and a financial purpose. Oh, that is devastating. And it's a betrayal of anyone who cares about that issue.
Yeah, there's no ideology that Manafort subscribes to at all. I mean, I think that Cenk's right when he talks about the fact that he's about the money. And so the political allies that have the money that sponsor Paul Manafort to these ridiculous sums, I mean, $50 and $60 million, he's going to create whatever narrative he has to serve those political interests. That's what he's done. I think his history is replete with examples of this. But this does really lay bare the kinds of dirty tricks and the sort of reckless abandon as he pursues these political ends that he goes about these various things in.
Even though he's not directly anti-Semitic, in this time that you just brought up, does he get away with that by playing on those concerns and those fears, just making something up? It not only cheapens it, but it kind of says, I don't really care what you're dealing with. I'm gonna jump in on it and make something up. I don't know if you can get away with them being like, but I'm not anti-Semitic.
And also in this,
I agree with you.
In the current political environment, don't you think increasingly that's just what it's about? I mean, pages from these Manafort tactics, Nixonian dirty tricks type tactics, we're seeing more of it. Just dirty up the candidate. Just make the candidate radioactive just by virtue of rumors. Even if you just have to tie the candidate up by having to knock down the rumors. You've done your political bidding here. So yeah, this is a strategy that's we're going to see. It's employed more already, and I think we're going to see it employed even more, especially in this highly charged political environment.
Yeah, and look, to be fair to Ben Shapiro, he later left Breitbart, but he wrote that article of his own volition when he was there. He's not part of the alt-right, and obviously he was not in favor of what happened in Charlottesville. And Charlottesville happened after this particular incident. But there have been forces within the right wing that have been in favor of that anti-Semitism for a long, long time. In fact, Shapiro has felt the brunt of that from people like Milo. And the right wing with the fundamentalist evangelicals who think, oh, it's great, we'll start a war in the Middle East and then it'll be Armageddon and then Jesus Christ will return. Getting into bed with those guys and helping them weaponize anti-Semitism it was always a terrible idea. This is just unfortunately a classic example of it. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.